Hello viewers, Endeavor here with another episode of A Bird's Eye View. I'm reviewing another Steam Early Access game. This one is called Darkest Dungeon. Produced and developed by Red Hook Studios, this game was released on February 3rd, 2015. The story of Darkest Dungeon opens with a nobleman sending a letter to the player begging them to return home to put right a grave mistake. The manor has fallen into darkness, and the surrounding lands have been blighted by an ancient evil. With hired heroes and determination, monsters must be pushed from your ancestral home. Darkest Dungeon is a turn-based RPG that puts the player in control of a small group of adventurers. The player guides their team through traps and skirmishes to reach the end of a dungeon. Between adventures, the player must maintain the health and sanity of the heroes they control, as well as purchasing upgrades to better arm their team against the dangers they will face. When embarking on quests, the player picks 4 heroes to adventure with. Positioning is important, as some classes are effective only in certain spots in line, and it helps to bring the right mix of heroes. After the team is selected, the player must choose which provisions to purchase, bearing in mind the limitations of both gold and inventory space. Once that's done, you're ready to proceed to the dungeon delve itself. Darkest Dungeon is a dark fantasy game reminiscent of things like Warhammer Fantasy. The narrative voiceover chides you for your failings, and grants reluctant praise at your victories. The eerie music keeps the tension high, and while the game is not scary in a classic horror sense, apprehension at knowing your party could meet an ignoble death at any moment keeps things stressful. This game features permanent death for any hero that falls in combat. This not only adds to the tension, it makes retreat a viable, and sometimes recommended, option. Depending on your luck and skill, managing your money can be quite a challenge at times. The game tracks your character's sanity in a stress meter that fills up as things go astray. If the meter ever fills up all the way, the hero can develop complications like paranoia and greed. To combat this, you can assign different heroes to recover in the tavern or monastery between adventures, but there is a sizable monetary cost to doing so. The atmosphere, art style, and difficulty all come together to make an incredible game. Each hero has a certain amount of character to them. Even though they are all randomly generated, they all felt like individuals with their own quirks and flaws. Watching in horror as the crusader that I started the game with succumbed to his wounds made me realize how great the game was at building up my attachment to the team. As for criticisms of the game, I have only a few. I feel like the tooltips and tutorials could give a bit more information early on. I was able to puzzle out how to do things fairly quickly, but certain game mechanics weren't immediately clear to me. Also, while I loved the party banter, at one point when all 4 members of my team had developed some sort of affliction, battles suddenly took 2 to 3 times longer as everyone felt the need to comment on every single hit and miss. Red Hook Studios has been very prompt when it comes to implementing patches and fixing problems. Just after the early access release, there was a notorious crash to desktop bug that was found and patched out almost immediately. The developers have been very active in the Steam forums, and their dedication to user feedback is noticeable. The game supports keyboard and mouse control only, and currently the key bindings cannot be reassigned. While I found the controls intuitive and functional, remappable keys and controller support are necessary for accessibility, so I'm hoping that Red Hook will add this functionality in an update. The developers have said that this game will remain in early access until the latter half of 2015. Currently there are 10 hero classes and 3 dungeon types. The full release is expected to add 3 more classes and at least 2 more dungeons, including the titular Darkest Dungeon. As of build 7635, there is no way to complete the story for the game, although I found playing the available content very entertaining. The game's retail price is $19.99, which might be a barrier for some since the game is in early access. Even so, I found Darkest Dungeon to be better put together than most other early access games, and I strongly recommend picking it up now. This game is currently available on Steam for Windows and Mac. Linux support is planned, but no date has been given. A version for PS4 and PS Vita is likewise on the way, and will most likely be released to the PlayStation Store. That completes my review for Darkest Dungeon. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to visit our YouTube channel for more videos from the Rookery. If you enjoyed my video and want to see more content, hit the like button to show your support. You can also follow us on Twitter at Rookery Gamers for updates and upcoming releases.